The house was at the end of a silent street, with tall windows covered by heavy curtains that never moved. On the outside, it seemed immobile in time, but inside, it hid memories that never stopped whispering. On that gray morning, fog crept across the rooftops like an old damp sheet. There was no wind, just the constant hum of electricity wires, and yet the dead leaves swirled on the ground, as if something invisible had just passed by. She came back after years. Nobody knew. Not even the neighbors noticed the black car parked at the curb. The sound of the door being closed echoed in a strange, muffled way, as if the air was thicker there. She remained still for a few seconds, staring at the entrance to the house, where the peeling paint formed scar-like patterns. Time had passed, but the place seemed to have frozen the pain. The doorknob was too cold for an autumn morning. When it spun, a crack echoed through the dark room, like the breaking of a secret. The wooden floor groaned beneath her feet, and the house lights flickered as she walked down the hallway, as if the place was breathing. Nothing had changed since last time. The crooked picture frames still hung on the wall, the rugs still hid the stains. She walked slowly to the room where, years ago, she had promised herself she would never return. The smell of old books and unlit candles was still there. Everything was too familiar. But time, with its silent cruelty, had displaced emotions, like pieces off the board. On top of the dresser, a wooden box rested. The zipper was open. Inside, newspaper clippings, never-sent letters, and a photograph. In it, 2 frozen smiles, hands clasped, eyes that now seemed to lie. She closed her eyes, and a flash of memory invaded. Another time. Another autumn. The first time she believed she was loved. His laugh echoing through the kitchen, the plans drawn in the smoke of breakfast, his hands in his hair, the 2 long looks in the silence of the night. But that didn't last. Neither of them knew how to deal with something that grew too truthful. Loving, at that time, seemed like a dance where the steps were improvised and fear was the conductor. Every gesture was measured. Every confession came with a shield. It was as if they both knew that the first to surrender would lose something irretrievable. And that's what destroyed them. Nobody cheated. Nobody screamed. They just stopped trying. The time after was made up of unanswered messages, screaming silences, and chance encounters where eyes darted away as if seeing too much could hurt. In a world where love has come to mean giving up power, they chose to protect themselves, until protection became prison. She went back to see if time had healed what was left open. But what he found was an echo, a void full of dense memories, where feelings still circulated like restless ghosts. He sat on the floor of the room, where the sun barely shone. Her cell phone vibrated in her pocket. Messages from someone new who didn't yet know what she was carrying. And she hesitated. Because today's love came with manuals, with strategies, with invisible rules that shaped each gesture. He had been the last one to truly feel with her. After him, everything was calculation. Who responds first? Who disappears longer? Who loves less? As if victory meant not falling in love, and not giving in became a medal. And she got tired. He was tired of loving as if he were in a war. He's tired of pretending he doesn't feel it. He got tired of not being able to say, "I want you," without it seeming like a weakness. The house lights flickered again. The old lamp in the corner flickered for a second and went out. The silence returned, thick. She closed the wooden box, taking only the photograph. Not as a memory of pain, but as proof that one day he felt without fear. And even if he lost, at least he played with his heart. In the kitchen, he also found a note glued to the refrigerator, the letters faded by time. He recognized his own handwriting. "Be light." It was what she had written before leaving. And now, so many years later, he understands the weight of that attempt. Outside, the sky had darkened more than it should have at that time. The clouds closed like curtains. She walked back to the car without looking around. That house was no longer hers, nor his, nor what they were. It was just a museum of something that couldn't survive the modern world. As I drove through the wet streets, the city seemed to watch in silence. Couples walked hand in hand, but their eyes were on their cell phones. In cafes, people looked at each other over the screens, without really seeing each other. It was a strange time. Love was a risk that few were willing to take. She stopped the car in an empty park. The wind swayed the branches slowly, almost theatrically. He sat on a wooden bench, watching the still lake. He took out his cell phone, opened the last message received. "Is everything okay with you?" Someone who still believed in exchange. For a moment, his fingers hovered over the screen, the answer ready in the mind, but instead, he took a deep breath and typed something simpler, more human. "Yes, I'm learning to feel again." And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, he felt free from the twisted logic that had turned love into a chessboard. Because what life has never taught us, right, is that whoever loves more never loses. Just live more intensely, even if it hurts, even if it doesn't last. The late afternoon light reflected off the still water of the lake, creating an eerie, almost golden glow. And for the first time, she didn't want to win. I just wanted to feel. Because perhaps the greatest act of courage today is to love without fear of losing. And if you've ever lost someone because you felt too much, maybe you're still loving them, right?